Hello and welcome to the 49ers First and 10 podcast presented by Cisco. 10 minutes of the most up-to-date 49ers news first thing in the morning. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, and joining me is 49ers team reporter Lindsay Pilares. After Week 11 at home, the 49ers have a lot of travel set out for them in the coming weeks. First with a stop in Green Bay for a Week 12 matchup against the Packers, then facing the Bills in Buffalo the following week. But the Niners are coming off of a tough 20-17 loss to the Seattle Seahawks with some key injuries to watch heading into this next game. Lindsay, how are the Niners preparing for this stretch of games, and what's the general mood after that tough loss to Seattle?
Yeah, Bree, tough was definitely one of the words used in multiple of the press conferences we heard post game from players, from head coach Kyle Shanahan. But I think the focus, especially inside the building, is that you've got to turn the page, look ahead to week 12, an NFC opponent. And now the margin of error for the 49ers is smaller, especially with 3 division losses and at 5-5 on the year. So the urgency, I guess, to get right is really of the utmost importance. And playing in Green Bay, cross country against an NFC West opponent, no easy feat. But what head coach Kyle Shanahan said that really stuck out to me, and what I really liked, was that he's like, you have to keep the focus on the ball and what happens in those 3.5 hours that is an NFL football game, and anything else, any sort of outside noise, it doesn't matter. Everything, all the efforts, the meetings, practices is all geared towards those 3.5 hours where that's what matters. So I think that is very much the focus. This team knows it's got the talent to get right. So now it's just about putting that into action, making sure to finish out drives, making sure to finish out games, and play to the level that they know they can play.
Yeah, that's the mindset necessary, needed for these tough stretch of games. And we heard from head coach Kyle Shanahan after the Seahawks game. He shared a few injury updates to players like Jacob Cowing, Tatum Bethune, Brock Purdy, and Nick Bosa. What's the latest you've heard from Coach Shanahan on these players?
Not so great news coming out of the Seahawks game, because there are injuries that are going to have to be monitored and some that may not be, good by the next day type thing. So Jacob Cowing, who has been the 49ers punt returner, suffered a concussion. He is in the league concussion protocol. Linebacker Tatum Bethune suffered an MCL sprain. He exited the game early, and he's expected to be out, quote, a while. Quarterback Brock Purdy, I don't want anybody to freak out just yet. We're going to get more information later today. Wednesday is the first practice of the week for the Niners, but he was experiencing some right shoulder soreness. Head coach Kyle Shanahan said he's considered day-to-day. Defensive lineman Nick Bosa, we know, was playing with a hip injury. That's going to continue to be an issue, and it sounds like now it is on both sides. It's a hip/oblique injury. He's going to be evaluated throughout the week, so no concrete update there other than something to keep on the radar. On a positive note, because there are positives, George Kittle, who was sidelined for this game, he participated in 2 practices in a limited capacity last week. He's expected to be back with the team and practicing on Wednesday. We'll see if he's full or limited again today, or if he's actually out there, but that was kind of the projected practice report from head coach Kyle Shanahan. And then also we're going to be keeping an eye on left tackle Trent Williams. He is dealing with an ankle injury, did not practice all of last week, but was able to gut it out for the game. He was experiencing soreness as well. So that's someone that's going to be a very important person to keep an eye on in week 12.
Yeah, on that positive side, George Kittle is expected to practice later on today after, like you said, dealing with that hamstring issue that kept him out of the Week 11 contest. But how big of a boost will it be for the offense to have him back in action?
You cannot understate the importance of George Kittle. He really is the 49ers do-it-all tight end. He's explosive. in the pass game, he can block, he can, chip people. He really can do everything. And the 49ers definitely missed him in week 11. Obviously, a very, very clutch player in the same way that we, very much praise Juwan for third and Juwan and really Juwan Jennings on every down. George Kittle is that reliable go-to guy that's, also a top pass catcher for the 49ers. So definitely having him missing was a notable absence.
Another bright spot this week is that cornerback Charvarius Ward is back with the team after a couple of weeks away due to a personal matter. How important is his return to the secondary, and how is he reacclimating himself into the flow of practice and perhaps game time?
Yeah, cornerback Charvarius Ward also an incredibly important piece of the 49ers secondary. Really the 1-2 punch along with Diamador Lindor. They are sort of the more veteran, tenured people in that defensive back group, along with a few others. But having him back is going to provide a really nice boost that the 49ers secondary needs. He was able to return in time for the game, obviously did not play, and then he was present for team meetings on Monday. That's what we heard from head coach Kyle Shanahan. So again, it's not a for sure that you're going to see him play Sunday, but he is starting to, like you said, reacclimate and reintegrate himself back into team activities. So we'll keep you posted on that.
And one player we've yet to see this season, linebacker Dre Greenlaw. The head coach did give a slight update on his injury recovery, but how is the team managing his way back to football?
Yeah, it sounds like it is a very slow and incremental process. He started the year on the reserve, physically unable to perform list because he suffered that Achilles injury in Super Bowl 58. Right now, his practice window is not open, but it is possible. I don't want to say expected, but I think they're looking at next week to open his practice window. That'll give him 21 days in order to activate him to the 53-man roster if that does happen. Kyle Shanahan said that right now he's doing mock practices on his own without players. And yeah, the hope is to get him in practice next week. I think that's more of a Monday question to see if that becomes a little bit more concrete. But just the fact that that's even being talked about obviously would provide another big boost to the 49ers defense.
Yeah, lastly, I did want to touch on Trent Williams for a second. It sounds like he played through his tough ankle injury against Seattle. What did Coach Shanahan have to say about his possible status for the week, and just how crucial really is his presence on the offensive line for the Niners?
I mean, Trent Williams is an all-pro left tackle. Again, one of those guys that you never really want to play without because he's one of those guys that people talk about as, yeah, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I think that pretty much says it all. He was able to, like I said, gut it out, able to play in week 11. I think that the hope is that he starts getting a little better throughout the week. But really, we didn't have a progress update on him. He was feeling sore. So it is going to be kind of a wait and see. I'm assuming that we'll get some updates on him later today from head coach Kyle Shanahan. But yeah, we'll keep you posted on that one. And it is certainly one of those injuries along with Nick Bosa that we are going to be monitoring throughout the week.
Yep, definitely. And today, again, is the first day of practice for the team. Lindsay, as you go out to the practice field and watch them today, what are some things you're going to be keeping your eye on?
I think it's just who's in practice and who's not, right? The expected return of a few players is a very exciting thing for the Niners as they, come up to a really crucial Week 12 game. But I think that's probably the biggest thing, trying to see where the energy level is for this team. Like we mentioned, a tough loss coming off of Sunday, but the hope is you turn the page, kind of have a short memory, focus all your efforts into Week 12. The 49ers, like you mentioned, have a tough stretch coming up, particularly these next couple weeks, because it's going to involve really long road trips against some pretty talented opponents. So we'll see how it goes. But I think, yeah, those are probably the two couple things I'm looking out for.
All right, Lindsay. Well, thank you so much. That will do it for today's episode. Subscribe to First and 10 presented by Cisco for more 49ers updates and turn on the notifications for any breaking news, Move the Chains episodes. Faithful, thanks for tuning in.